Everybody, thank you for coming to this evening's regular commission meeting, Tuesday, April 27th. We'll start this evening off with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item on this evening's agenda is the consent agenda.
I so move to approve the consent agenda.
Second. Thank you, Commissioners. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Next item on this evening's agenda is to consider a proclamation declaring April 29th as Arbor Day in Newton, Kansas. Jackie Crable is going to speak.
Hello this evening. How are we all doing?
Well,
Good.
thank you.
Good. As you know, I'm here to have the 29th declared Arbor Day. Our intentions are to have two celebrations of Arbor Day this year. They will both take place on the 29th. One of them will be roughly 9 or 9:30 at Northridge Elementary with the third grade class there. We'll be planting a lace bark elm between the school and the playground structure they just put in a new playground structure, so they're wanting a little bit of shade there. And then the other celebration that day will be between noon and 1 at Slate Creek Elementary with the first grade classes there. Again, we will be putting in a lace bark elm between the building and the basketball court. Last year we got Arbor Day canceled because of COVID, if you will, canceled. But the last couple of years, we as a park department have been growing some trees on our own. We've collected acorns in the fall. And so we are in hopes to have this be our second year. It would generally be our third year that we would have done this. But we have some trees that are 3-4 feet tall. And what we like to do is those kids that we get to celebrate Arbor Day with, we give them each a tree at the end of the planting. So they can take them home and plant them with their families. So with that being said, I think I'll go ahead and read the proclamation.
Please.
Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world. And whereas trees reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cutting heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide a habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal, and whereas trees have been recognized as, whereas Newton has been recognized as a Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation and desires to continue its tree planting practices.
Now, therefore, I, Rich Stinnett, Mayor of the City of Newton, do hereby proclaim April 29th, 2021 as Arbor Day in the City of Newton, and urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. And further, I urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden the heart and promote the well-being of this and future generations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion that we approve Arbor Day as April 29th.
We have a motion to approve.
I will second that.
Thank you for the second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
We'll sign those.
Okay.
Because they're in-house.
Very good. Next item on this evening's agenda is to consider a proclamation declaring May as National Bike Month and the week of May 17th through the 23rd.
Wait,
as
number 5.
What?
Maybe,
Oh.
Yeah, sorry, we can go back to
Yeah, no.
National Historic.
Consider a proclamation declaring May as National Historic Preservation Month. Ms. Liquirodopoulos.
Thank you, Mayor and Commission. This year, we will have a very pared down observance, similar to last year's, with just some electronic educational through social media in partnership with the Harvey County Historical Museum. We're hoping in next years we can continue to be more outdoors and community involved. So I'll just read our proclamation. Whereas local historic preservation is an effective tool for revitalizing neighborhoods, fostering local pride, and maintaining community character while enhancing livability. And whereas historic preservation can celebrate the diverse pasts of our nation and save the places where history was made. Whereas Newton is proud to be known for our nationally registered historic districts and properties. And whereas historic preservation is supported by the North Newton Historic Preservation Commission, Harvey County Historical Society, and Kansas State Historic Preservation Office.
Now, therefore, I, Rich Stinnett, Mayor of the City of Newton, Kansas, do hereby proclaim May 2021 as National Preservation Month and call upon the people of Newton to join their fellow citizens across the United States in recognizing and participating in this special observance. Do we have a motion?
I would make the motion that we approve May as Historic Preservation Month.
Thank you.
Second that.
Thank you, sir. Gentlemen, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Now we'll consider a proclamation declaring May as National Bike Month and the week of May 17th through the 23rd as Bike to Work Week and May 21st as Bike to Work Day.
Good evening, Mayor, Commission. We're looking to celebrate Bike to Work Day. We'll probably do a morning breakfast on the lawn, something low-key, and with the hopes of programming more events in the future. So I'd ask that you would entertain a motion for Bike Month, Bike Week, and Bike to Work Day in Newton. Whereas the bicycle is an economical, healthy, convenient, and environmentally sound form of transportation and an excellent tool for recreation and enjoyment of Newton's scenic beauty. And whereas the City of Newton is implementing bikeway improvements throughout the city to encourage and facilitate safe and convenient travel by bicycle, and whereas Newton's road and trail system attracts bicyclists each year, providing economic health, transportation, tourism, and scenic benefits, and whereas creating a bicycle-friendly community has been shown to improve citizens' health, well-being, and quality of life, growing the economy of Newton, attracting tourism dollars, improving traffic safety, supporting student learning outcomes, and reducing pollution, congestion, and wear and tear on our streets and roads. And whereas the City of Newton is also promoting greater public awareness of bicycle operation and safety education in an effort to reduce collisions, injuries, fatalities, and improve health and safety for everyone on the road. And whereas the month of May is National Bike Month, and whereas the week of May 17th through May 23rd, 2021 is Bike to Work Week, and whereas the day of May 21st, 2021 is Bike to Work Day, which promotes bicycling as a viable means of transportation to and from work.
Breathe.
Thank you.
Now, therefore, I, Rich Stinnett, Mayor of Newton, Kansas, do hereby proclaim May 2021 as National Bike Month in Newton and the week of May 17th through May 23rd as Bike to Work Week and May 21st as Bike to Work Day, and I urge all residents to join me in this special observance. Do you have a motion?
I move that we accept the proclamation for National Bike Day, Week, and Month.
Thank you, Commissioner. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, sir. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any
Thank you.
opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations. Next item this evening is to consider a proclamation declaring May as the Newton Lions Club Centennial Month. Mr. Nickel?
Thank you. And it's nice to see that two of you wore Lions Club colors. I really appreciate that.
You know how much I respect you.
This is an exciting month for us, an exciting year. It is our 100th birthday of the Newton Lions Club. It's the largest service organization in the world with 1.4 million members. And as you can see, our motto is we serve, and we do many things in the community, such as the Christmas Parade of Lights, the Halloween walk, cleaning up Sand Creek, among other things. And we have a huge focus on eyeglasses and eye needs and those in need. We donate thousands of dollars to people who need eyesight assistance. So I will read the proclamation. Whereas the Newton Lions Club International is the world's largest and most active service organization with over 1.4 million men and women in over 48,000 clubs across the globe. And whereas the Newton Lions Club has a distinguished history that dates back to 1917, empowering volunteers to serve their communities and the world with a focus in vision, diabetes, hunger, the environment, and childhood cancer. And whereas Newton Lions Club has actively fulfilled the Lions Club mission for over 100 years, or for 100 years, since May 17, 1921. Whereas the Newton Lions Club has played a leading role in significant community initiatives in the past century, including the city's first outdoor warning sirens and the first defibrillators in Newton ambulances. And whereas the Newton Lions Club continues to make Newton a better place through volunteer service, charitable giving, and community events.
Now, therefore, I, Rich Stinnett, Mayor of the City of Newton, Kansas, do hereby proclaim May 2021 as Newton Lions Club Centennial Month in the City of Newton and express our thanks to the past and present members of Newton Lions Club for their dedicated service to our community. Do we have a motion?
I move that we proclaim May as the Newton Lions Club Centennial Month.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioners. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries.
Thank you.
Congratulations. All righty. Next item this evening is to consider a proclamation declaring May 9th through 15th, 2021 as Police Week and May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day. Chief?
Good evening. The last of the proclamations tonight, but certainly not the least.
No, sir.
National Police Week, May 9th through 15th. Whereas Congress and the President of the United States has designated May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the week in which May 15th falls as National Police Week. And whereas the members of the Newton Police Department play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of the city of Newton. And whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand the duties, responsibilities, hazards, and sacrifices of the law enforcement agency, and that the members of the law enforcement agency recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them from violence and disorder, and protecting them from the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression. Whereas the men and women of the Newton Police Department unceasingly provide a vital public service, and in doing so have established themselves an enduring reputation for preserving the rights and security of all citizens.
Therefore, I, Rich Stinnett, by virtue of the authority vested in me as Mayor of the City of Newton in the state of Kansas, do hereby proclaim the week of May 9th through 15th, 2021 as National Police Week, and call upon all citizens of the City of Newton to observe Saturday, May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day, in honor of those law enforcement officers who, through their courageous deeds, have made the ultimate sacrifice in service to their community or have become disabled in the performance of duty. And let us recognize and pay respect to the survivors of our fallen heroes.
I make the motion to approve May 9th through 15th as Police Week.
Thank you, Commissioner. Do we have a
I
second?
second that.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
I
Motion
just
carries.
want to say, you were spot on when you said that while this proclamation may be the last one on the list, it's not the least. And while it is a pleasure to hear all the other proclamations and to celebrate with them, this one here is special because right now at this time in our country, we have a real difficult time, law enforcement and the bad rap. And it is my hope that this community will always remain firm and supportive behind our law enforcement, because you guys, you do a fantastic job, and we're very, very thankful for you in this community. So keep it up.
Well, thank you. I think we've worked really hard to
Yes,
keep
you have.
our reputation and just the communication. That's the key to
Yes.
having successful and having the community
Yep.
have our back when we need it the most. So I really appreciate it.
Well, you're well thought of.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item this evening is to consider a request from Joey Renker to appeal the Historic Preservation Commission's decision of not allowing demolition of an outbuilding at 207-209 East First Street. Rebecca?
Bye, Lions.
Good evening again. So on April 15th at our regularly scheduled Historic Preservation Commission meeting, we were reviewing the request from Mr. Rencher to demolish this building. This building was constructed in 2 phases, but the way it was listed when the district was created was it was listed as a contributing structure. The larger portion of the building was constructed in 1970, so if you could take it apart, that part would be non-contributing, but it is not that way. We are allowed, as the Historic Preservation Commission, to approve demolitions of non-contributing or non-historic features in historic buildings, especially if they were substantially damaged or wind or fire, etc. However, because this is a contributing feature, through upholding state law, they have to deny any request that could damage or destroy a historic structure. And again, because the original portion was built at an earlier time, the entire piece is considered historic. So at that time, the 5 of the 8 commissioners present for the meeting made a motion to deny the request, but to instruct staff to help Mr. Rencher and prepare an appeal to the City Commission with their full support for the demolishment of this outbuilding. Any questions?
So does that mean that according to state historic statutes, your hands are pretty well tied?
Yes.
And it only is the 5 of us that can do anything about it?
That is pretty much how that stands right now.
Okay.
Is there any negative if our commission acts in favor of the request? Does that damage a reputation at the state level for our?
No, not at all. That is actually the normal course of action that the SHPO uses in this case. Even if they were to make the determination, their hands would be kind of tied in the same manner. Right. So it would be the governing body that could be able to make this ability.
And the key is it's at the request of the homeowner.
Correct.
Very good.
And this is exactly why we have this check and balance appeals process in place across the state and national level of historic preservation, so that there are items, obviously this needs to calm down.
Right.
Yeah, for safety reasons. But again, this is exactly why we have this appeals process in place. And we're grateful for our preservation commissioners who understand their role, but also understand the reality of, okay, we have to make this action, but we recommend you appeal this decision, follow the process.
Were all 8 or 9 of them there and only 5?
But only 5 were at the meeting, and it was a unanimous vote.
Okay.
Mr. Rencher is in the audience, and I'm sure would like to speak to you about this.
Sure, come on up. If you would, please, for the record, state your name and address when you approach the podium, please.
Yes, my name is Joey Rencher, and I live at 207 East 1st Street there.
Thank you.
Yeah, this garage has unfortunately been in about this state since I've owned it, which I think we bought the house around 3 years ago, officially, and it was uninsurable at the time of being purchased. Now, as you can obviously see, it's in very rough shape, not very safe to be in. I have 2 little daughters who I've specifically instructed to stay far away from it. But, you know, curiosity of kids doesn't always help with that. So, yeah, I was requesting to basically get this an appeal to the Historical Society so I can get this torn down.
Are you planning on replacing it with a?
That is my plan in the future, yeah, but I figured I'd take this one step at a time.
Right. No.
Yeah.
So, Rebecca, when he goes to replace, does he have to mimic existing?
That will be a separate consideration from this matter, because the Historic Preservation Commission asked the same thing. We'll be using the guidelines that we've laid down for the McKinley District and go through that process. So it will probably look the same size and setback, or at least something similar that would fit the neighborhood.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else, sir?
No, I think that about covers it.
Commissioners?
I'd make the motion that we grant his appeal and let him demolish.
Commissioners, if I may interject, so long as Rebecca agrees, in addition to that, that motion stating that there's no feasible and prudent alternative other than demolition, is that fair? Making that finding as part of the granting.
I was going to say that.
I know you were. I just was going to clear
that. I'm good with that.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Thank you, gentlemen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing that.
And that is how government works.
Efficiently
Yes.
and at the request of our citizens.
Perfect. Next item is to consider an ordinance amending Chapter 27 to include the,
Mayor, if I may,
17.
can we please go back to number 10, a request for Mennonite Housing for proposed amendment? Oh, excuse me. Oh, excuse me.
the number is there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh,
You changed the order on me?
oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me.
Which one now?
Can we go to number 10 that's on the screen? Is that what's next on the agenda?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay. I apologize. We had to amend the agenda
Okay.
order.
Considering a request from Mennonite Housing for proposed amendment to the real estate option contract dated January 31st, 2020.
Yes, sir, and I will start on that, and also Mr. Byron Adrian and Doug Bergman from Mennonite Housing Wichita are here to also speak on their behalf and answer questions you might have. You may recall at the end of December of 2019 and into January 2020, we worked with Mennonite Housing on an option contract for the purchase of land that the city owns near the corner of First and Boyd on the west side of town. Mennonite Housing is working on an application for senior-specific, 55 and older, living. It would be considered multifamily, although they're planning to be one-story units. It could be, duplexes or triplexes, depending on the application. They are making an application to Kansas Housing Resource Corporation, KHRC, for tax credits. And if they are successful in that application, it's a very highly competitive application process statewide because only so many state credits are awarded to the state to spread out among these applications. If they're successful in that award, it significantly reduces the cost of the project to build. In exchange for that, receiving the tax credits for a certain number of years, they agree to keep a certain number of the units below market rate, and that is based on the income of the tenants that would be living there. So this is independent living, not assisted living. So in January of 2020, we entered into an option contract with them for the purchase of that property. It is dependent upon, of course, them being successfully awarded the tax credits. Typically, we find that developers have to apply multiple years in a row before the credits are awarded through KHRC. In 2019 or 2020, KHRC had several staffing changes. They had some retirements, and the new director that is over the tax credit program and vetting those applications, and their board has set up an entirely new scoring system. So, previously you received a certain number of points if you had, an agreement, a resolution of support from the city commission, also a mutual referral agreement from the housing authority. So we still are scored on those items, but because Harvey County, not just Newton, but other cities in Harvey County, have been successfully awarded tax credits in the past, and we have managed those projects well, and our developer partners have done a great job. And again, there's a few credits to go around. They're trying to spread them to communities that may not have already been awarded. So if you are a project application, not just within Newton, but Harvey County and several other counties in the state, you automatically lose 10 points on your application. And so we're trying to find ways to make those points up to make our application more competitive because, as you know, we desperately need this housing in our community. And this has been an identified need. It is on your strategic plan to work with developers and find new ways and new tactics we can take to help address our housing shortage. So one of the new scoring criteria that is allowed that would gain, I believe, 10 additional points, and Doug and Byron, hop in if I misstate this, please, is if the city or agrees to make some kind of an incentive to the developer in the amount of $25,000 or more. That can be in the form of land donation, that can be in the form of fee waivers and, or a grant that would go towards the cost of those fees and permitting costs. So our suggestion to you would be they're already entered into a contract for purchase of the land, but in that contract at that time, they agreed that they would not ask for waivers of fees. However, the scoring system and literally our competitiveness has changed, and our ability to compete right now is incredibly important. So at the request of Mennonite and discussing with them, staff would like to recommend you consider providing about a $25,000 basically agreement for a waiver of fees. And that way they would gain the points on their application. So if their application is not successful, we are not out any funding. If their application, which we hope is successful this year or perhaps the next one as we go along, our suggestion would be that as we have done with previous development partners such as Habitat, we agree to waive those fees. Of course, that's a one-time thing, usually once a year, and it's $1,800, $2,000, smaller amount of money, I get. But remember that our engineering department, who issues those permits and fees and does inspections, that's how they operate. That keeps our general fund from having such a burden on it. It alleviates the, property tax. So our citizens paying additional property taxes to subsidize those operations. So our suggestion would be that we do what we have before. In that case, we reimburse ourselves from our economic development funds. We are fortunate right now that we are looking forward to receiving some of this ARP, the American Recovery Program funding. And one of the things that it can be used for is infrastructure and development of your community, anything that makes your community more economically stable. So our suggestion would be that we consider using $25,000 of that potential $2.6 million award as a one-time benefit. So it's not necessarily true that we might be able to replicate this in the future due to the city's, very tight budget. So that's kind of the 30,000-foot view. I would defer to you, gentlemen. Hopefully I've stated this accurately. There's a letter in your packet of request from them for consideration of this. And Mr. Adrian, if you all have something.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. Thank you, Kelly. That was excellent. I think I'm going to second everything she just said. Wonderful job of explaining why we're here this evening, and it really does go back to the changes that KHRC has made, and we believe that in order to make the application as strong as possible, we need to make some changes to the existing option contract. We do need to include in that the ability to have fee waivers, and that would make the application a lot stronger if we could change the option contract to allow for that. And then also, based on the schedule of the way the development actually happens this year, it's a little bit later in the year because, again, of the changes that KHRC has made. The approval process on their side is a little bit later in the year. So we're also requesting that the option contract be extended another year. Currently, it expires at the end of this year, 2021, and we'd requesting that that goes through the end of 2022 to give enough time to be able to get through the necessary steps that we need. So
yes, and thank you, sir. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that. So these are federal tax credits that get passed to the state, and then the state relies on KHRC to vet the applications and distribute them. Remember, the federal fiscal year begins October 1. And so the state fiscal year begins July 1. And so we are operating on these different years because the federal fiscal year is now going to be 23-24 beginning, or 22-23, excuse me, 23. Beginning. Yeah, so the 23 fiscal year begins October 1st. So we're having some timing issues, and so we would request that extension to line up with the potential award. We would likely know if we were awarded in July, sir?
In July of this year is when they'll announce awards. So we're essentially putting in the same request that we did last year, and we know it would be stronger if we were to be able to get the fee waivers and extend the contract. If you recall, we're looking at a project that would be for 32. Phase one of it would be for 32 units for seniors. That's 55 and above and below certain income level, and that's our proposal, similar to what we did last year.
And ideally, we would go to phase 2, which would be the same size-ish, like 32 to 35 units, or a total
probably
of 67
about
units.
In that same range. We do think that that land out there could eventually hold enough for 120 units in total, so we're starting out at 32. In the first phase here, we're planning to also include a clubhouse building, which provides a lot of nice amenities for the families.
Thank you, sir. Any questions?
So extending the contract another year allow you to go through another cycle?
Yes, sir. Yeah. So like right now, it's set to expire December 31st of this
End of this calendar
year.
correct.
And so we're just asking to extend that to 22. And if need be, last year we were told we were a very competitive application and we missed by just a few points,
close.
frankly, scoring in the end. So we are very hopeful that we score as well this year against this new metric. and hopefully will be awarded this year. If not, we are allowed to continue to try and apply. It's a
Correct.
once-a-year application. So we could continue it. At that point, we would come back and probably ask for a similar amendment, just an extension of that contract.
Yeah, and our intent is to stay with this until we get this approved. We would love for that to happen this year, but we're committed to helping out. We believe that there's a real need here.
There is.
So if you are amenable to this following your discussion, my, I guess, and Chris, please help me out here.
Sure.
I guess our request would be in the motion that you direct staff to make those changes to the contract. It would come back at your next meeting. And I believe what the developer needs from me is something, a letter he can include with his application that states that the city commission has authorized, blah, blah, blah. So he gets the points for that. Is that correct,
That's
sir?
correct. And the deadline on submitting the application is at the end of next week, May 7th.
Correct.
So we'll
So
have to
we
fit it
can-
in prior to that. So all I need is an indication, whether it's the commission meeting minutes, something that I can put in the application which indicates that that decision has been made to approve the fee waivers.
I move to approve everything Kelly just said.
It's ditto night. We have a
second that.
motion and a second. Thank you, Commissioners. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries.
Thank you very much. This is really important to our community.
Looking
Exactly.
forward to it.
Not on the fee waivers.
Thank you.
But on the extension of the time.
Say again, for clarification?
If we would have had two motions, I approve the fee waivers, but
We
not
can-
extending the time.
We can make a clean record on that.
Okay.
So the motion would be, I guess we could do it in two parts, or you could just vote against it as one. But, I mean, I guess you could make a motion first that the option contract be extended 1 year through calendar 2022. Then the second motion could be that the contract is amended to allow a $25,000 fee credit.
Denise?
However you like.
Yeah, we would need to rescind that motion that you just made if you want to make new ones, or you can stay, if you want to do two, then that's
Well, I
okay.
want them to know I'm supportive of supporting the fee waivers. But I want to talk about the extension before we approve that.
Oh, okay. I misunderstood you as the opposite.
No.
but- Okay, I understand.
No, I'm all for the fee waivers.
So do we need a motion to rescind that?
The person who made the motion needs to make the motion to rescind their motion, followed by the second of, if the person who seconded
Roy and
that
I.
agrees with that. And then we'll start all over with the whole clean slate, and you can
Sounds good.
do as you
Okay, so I move to rescind.
I will second that.
Okay. All those in favor to rescind?
Aye.
Very good. Now we'll start clean. So the first one,
The first could be a motion to extend the option contract 1 additional calendar year.
Or do you want to talk about that first?
Sure.
About the extension and what your reservations are?
yeah.
There have been multiple other people interested in that property during this period of time, and there's no way of us knowing how long it's going to take for them to get their credits. So if we end up with another builder that is willing to move forward quicker, then it would behoove us to, at least set on this until closer to July to make that determination.
If we don't extend tonight, does it still give them the option to be able to move forward with that 25,000, at least in this cycle?
I would defer to these gentlemen. I'm not sure, because
How's
this
your
is a new timeline for
Yes,
the
it does.
process.
Okay.
It does. It makes it cleaner by doing the extension, but I've confirmed with KHRC that we would still be okay with the application if the extension is not approved. So we're
the
good
city
with that.
commission allows you the credit, you get through this cycle, and then you could come back this fall and ask for an additional extension that would extend into 2022. Is that
That's,
right?
yes. Restate that. I want to make sure I
Well,
understand what you're.
You need to know about the fee credit now for this cycle.
Yes,
For
definitely.
determination this summer. However, the extension, you could come back this fall and ask for the contract to be extended into 2020.
That is correct, if we needed to, yes.
So then, could we just make a simple motion that we just approve the fee waivers and through this cycle, and then they'll have to come back to extend it for a year after that? I mean, that would just be a clean motion for this cycle.
It's, of course, acceptable, and I'm not hearing an objection from,
Right, we're okay with that.
the only issue would be you're coming back for another item. That's no problem. We can reassess this fall, absolutely.
Yeah, That's what my motion will be then, for the option for this cycle.
We will amend the agreement to allow for a $25,000 fee credit. We will not extend it this time.
Correct.
The agreement.
Suzanne?
Oh, I think we're talking about microphones, sorry, if we were being heard, sorry.
Yeah.
So, and again, Mr. Adrian, correct me if I misstate this, but some of the reasons for the extension would be, even if we know we're awarded the credits in July, by the time we actually close on the project, it will be, and get ready to start, it will be February of the next calendar year. So if their contract expires, but to your point, if we know we've got the award in place, then.
Then it's a sure deal.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and in the application information, it is a little unclear on that point. I've confirmed with KHRC, they're still okay with that date not going past. I mean, the current option contract, it just would have been a little bit cleaner to go ahead right now and extend it. Then we know we don't have any issues at all. Because like Kelly said, we will not be able to close on this deal until sometime in 2022. Now, as long as this motion to approve the fee waivers also includes the commission's decision to grant those, then we're fine with that. So I think it's more than just allowing them, changing the contract. It's the commission going ahead and saying, okay, now that the contract is changed, we approve the fee waivers. That would be the level of commitment I would need to.
What I envision drafting is an amendment to the agreement that previously said no fee waivers, and it will say that should development occur, the developer is eligible for up to $25,000 in fee credits, laying that out, and then Kelly, in good faith, would give you your letter to meet your deadline. We would bring the formal agreement back to the commission at their next meeting.
And then but prior to May 7, I would be able to get something from the city which states that the commission has approved.
Yeah, and that's what Kelly.
That was my thought, was that's why I said in your motion, if they would, if they would authorize staff to draft such a letter.
Okay.
Saying at this date, the city commission has authorized this, and it will be an amendment to the development agreement, and this is the wording. And then we'll get the actual formal agreement, so if they should want it, we'll just have it ready for the next commission.
Yep.
Will that work for the
That'll work.
timeline?
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
So are we not able to have even a motion just to extend it? And if that votes down, I just feel I'm a little uneasy that this has come up like this. I have no awareness of anybody looking at this property, so that doesn't mean that someone's not, but I'm a little concerned about that popping up.
You can make a motion to do whatever you want to do.
Okay.
There's no, yes, that you have to do this, or no, you have to do that. You can do whatever you would like.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and move that we, first of all, agree to the extension. I may not be wording it correctly. Correct me where I'm wrong.
Extending it 1 year.
Extending it 1 year. I mean, that's where we were. That's what we've talked about. So I will move that we extend this 1 year.
The contract 1 year.
Contract 1 year.
And also, so you want that to be a separate motion from the fee waiver?
Well, I'm understanding that it has to be, probably.
It can be.
Voted on the other yet, have we?
Well,
No.
we rescinded that.
Yeah. But didn't
And
Linda
just having
make another
discussion.
motion?
No,
So we can have this motion, and it's going to pass or fail.
Right.
And then we can have a motion to not extend.
Well-
Or is that the one that's combined with the fees?
I think we would just do the fees next, but
I think-
let's see where
yeah.
the motion goes. Right.
Okay. So I move that we extend the contract 1 year.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Having no second?
Obviously not. Okay.
Do we have another motion regarding the fees?
I'll make a motion that we approve the $25,000 fee waiver and direct staff to implement that into the existing contract.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Next item tonight is to consider an ordinance amending Chapter 17 to include bulky item sticker notice program.
Commissioners, we brought a first read of the ordinance that the city attorney had provided at your last meeting, and we provided you with information that was kind of the basics of the program that we had been discussing. And this is all in response to commission direction for city beautification strategic plan. This is one of the pieces of it. And the basics of this program would be any bulky items that are sitting in the public right-of-way would have a sticker placed on them stating that they need to be removed within 48 hours, or they would need to call in for a bulky item pickup. If they call in for the bulky item pickup, then it would be a $10 fee, just like it is today. If they do not call in within the 48 hours, then we would be picking it up sometime after that, and the charge would be double the current fee. Today, that fee is 10, so it'll be $20. And the stickers would be placed by our sanitation staff or our environmental control officer.
I have a question. Do we, and this doesn't really have anything to do with the $20 fee or whatever, but how is it, I've never had a bulky item pickup, so is there determined a size amount that is, is there something that goes, okay, you have more than just one bulky item load, so this is a $20 versus a $10? Because those trucks are big.
Kind of. We have a brochure I don't have one with me to give you.
That's okay.
But it's lists that you can have up to 5 items, I believe it is. And certain types of items.
Okay.
As far as size goes.
And is that just
Otherwise, we
determined
would
once
say
they get
we
there?
need to come
Yeah.
back at another time because we want to leave opportunity for others
Sure.
to be
Okay.
able to,
Yeah.
to have theirs.
So if these items that were left out there and stickered, if they exceeded that one load, it would be double the charge then, correct? It would be,
No, typically we'll only pick up those items and then we would leave the remainder because we're trying to make sure we get to everybody that is scheduled for that day. Because these get scheduled like a week in advance.
okay. Cool.
So are you ready? If you're ready to move forward, we would ask that you would approve the ordinance that has been provided.
You have an ordinance number?
Right?
It's an ordinance.
Yes.
Yes, that number would be 5041-21.
I would move we approve ordinance 5041-2.
We have
I
a
will
motion
second that.
and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you,
And then
Suzanne.
our expectation is that we will have the program implemented by July 1 of this year.
Next item this evening is to consider an extension of the development agreement with Standridge Color Corp.
And I can open this one. In 2017, the city sold certain property to Standridge. It was 6.84 acres. It was for a purchase price of $54,000. Part of that agreement, the city held a reversionary interest in the property, that if it weren't developed in a certain amount of time, the property would be returned to the city. And the specific term of that was that they would complete construction of a facility pursuant to a building permit obtained before September 1st of this year. Just given the general economic conditions and COVID, they've asked for an extension. City staff supports it. It's a 2-year extension. All the other terms of the agreement would stand by. If we're here in 2 years, if they haven't developed, our reversionary interest would still be good. However, you have no obligation to accept that ask, but we see it as still a value that they do complete it, albeit delayed. So that's city staff support. Standridge did offer to be here, but we asked that they put it forward in a letter. They're willing to be here if you have questions or concerns. I'm happy to address it. The agreement and the addendum is in the agenda packet, but it's rather straightforward in terms of the mechanics of it. It's just a policy question for the commission.
They've been a good company to work with on their previous development. And the screen shows a drawing. You can kind of see the crosshatched buildings that they would expect to be building in their next expansion project.
I would make a motion to approve the changes to the development agreement and give them another 2 years.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Next item this evening is to consider moving forward, huh? Yep,
Yes.
consider moving forward with the court-ordered cleanup of property at 127 Lakeview Drive. Suzanne?
Yes, the engineering office has received information from the court stating that they would like us to move forward with cleanup of the property located at 127 Lakeview. We've got some pictures on the screen here that show the property. Our initial complaints started at 2017 with this specific go-round of cases. And due to continued problems and lack of response to nuisance violation notices, the environmental control officer sent this case to court in 2017. The administrative hearing process began in September of 2019. And then in April of 2021, the court ordered the cleanup of the property. The property owner is Ms. Teresa Kennedy. She admitted to our environmental control officer that many of her friends and roommates had contributed to the nuisance on the property. The yard is located and in plain view from Athletic Park and the Sand Creek walking path. Over the last 5 years, this property has generated many phone calls, both to the Environmental Control Office and to the Police Department. There also remains inoperable vehicles on the property. The structure itself has multiple violations, broken windows. Plumbing is draining directly onto the ground. You can see that in one of the pictures on the screen. There's missing siding on the structure, lack of paint and general dilapidation. The yard is full of junk, trash, and debris, and the property owner has not attempted to abate the nuisance. Cleanup of the property would be done following a competitive bidding process. For the required work, we would add this to the group of properties that you approved we move forward with at the last commission meeting. And the cost of the project would be filed as a lien against the property. And in the meantime, we would be paying for that from funds that have been set aside out of the engineering budget for demolition of properties and cleanup. And we would ask that you just direct staff to move forward with obtaining the bids to perform the work ordered by the court.
And just to note, the property owner did have an attorney on this, and there was a stipulation that's included in your packet. They agreed that it's out of compliance, and they agreed to go ahead and allow the city to do it and file the lien. So just for some additional context.
I move that we direct the city staff to obtain bids to clean up this property.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second that.
I'm hearing a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you, Suzanne. All righty. Now, executive session.
And I think, Mayor, maybe about 15 minutes if we could reconvene at 8:05. And there are obviously other agenda items that follow this for the benefit of the audience.
I move that the city commission recess into executive session to discuss the acquisition of real property located within the city. The justification for closing the meeting is to discuss the details surrounding the possible acquisition of real property. The time and place at which the open meeting shall resume is 8:05 PM right here in the city commission chambers.
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
get away from the influence, aren't they? Yeah, sure.
that time.
Somebody was fighting me on it.
Welcome back, everybody. We have returned from our executive session where no action was taken. The next item on our agenda this evening is to consider an agreement with KDOT pertaining to the city's acquisition of real property to offset certain infrastructure costs. Chris and Suzanne are going to take this.
Yes, Commissioners, I would like to start and just give you some of the background information. The Kansas Department of Transportation purchased property on the northwest corner of Anderson and US Highway 50 several years ago with the intent of moving their maintenance facility to this location. Their current facility is located on East 12th Street, just west of Old Trail Road. And KDOT began seriously pursuing development of the land in 2020. They went through the annexation process and the rezoning process in November of last year, and now they're going through the platting process, which is the last step before they'd be able to pull a building permit to move forward with a new construction. A part of the platting process is a commitment to extend city utilities and improve roadways that might require improvements to accommodate any additional traffic or out of the ordinary traffic, as opposed to, we've done, say, when Walgreens went in, they had to do some improvements to roadways from what was there before, and other developments have been required to do that. So at this location, a part of the platting process was they needed to extend a water main and add an additional lane of pavement along Southwest 14th Street. If you think about it, when you're looking at that roadway to the east of the property, it is a 3-lane facility with curb and gutter, and it's a concrete facility. But both sides of the roadway are in the city for the majority of the length from Anderson to the next road, I think is Plum, and then all the way over to Old Main. And so the improvements were done along there when the property to the south or to the east of this KDOT property requested improvements. The property on the north side of 14th Street across from the KDOT property is in the county. And so we are only requiring that an additional lane be put in for turning into or through the intersection there at Anderson and Highway 50. That is a requirement of the plat, just like a drainage plan is a part of the platting process. And the KDOT plat is planned to go to the Planning Commission at their May 3rd meeting. And as an alternative to them having petitions signed to do the improvements that we speak about that would be required with the plat, we the city have spoke with them about the purchase of their 12th Street facility. They're leaving that location because if you've noticed over time, all of their dump trucks and the trucks that they use to plow roads, spread salt, have gotten larger and larger. And their facility where they have on 12th Street there, the front building there is where they do the maintenance on those facilities, and they cannot get those trucks into their bays any longer. They're very small, and they can't do the work they need to on those trucks in that facility. They need more room to spread out. They're able to do the work that they have done in the past with larger vehicles but less people, and so a different location is important to them as they move forward with their maintenance. However, as you know, we, the city, have been looking for a park maintenance facility. We are currently leasing space out on Meridian, and our park mowers would fit just nicely in these bays, and we'd be able to do the maintenance that is needed. And the facility layout on this property actually touches property that is Centennial Park, the back or north side of Centennial Park, where we already have burn piles and do maintenance activities that is out of the public eye. And so this is a nice connection to our already owned parkland. We are currently leasing this facility over on Meridian. We pay in the memo that's in the packet, it says $3,000 per year. That's my goof. It's $3,000 per month. And then for 2020, we also, by contract with the leasing party, have to pay $15,000 for the taxes. So we're paying the $3,000 a month plus $15,000 for taxes. And the agreement that we have says that we will have an increase in that lease rate. Will go up to $3,100 beginning in 2023. So we certainly are paying costs towards leasing the property today. We looked at building a new facility on property that the city owns on Boyd Street, just north of Sharps Drive. and the cost to build new was significantly higher than the dollar amount we had plugged into our CIP program. So we believe this is a good option for us to move forward. Not only are there structures here that our park staff can utilize, but there's an additional salt storage facility that we could use from our street maintenance standpoint to be able to have additional product available during winter storms. And we just see a lot of positives regarding this location. So we reached out to the Department of Transportation and looked at being able to swap the property. They had an appraisal done. The appraisal of the existing property came back at $250,000. However, we believe, based on the properties that we've looked at for park maintenance facility, that it is more valuable than the $250,000. Obviously, we tried to build a facility that would suit our needs, and it was significantly over the $2.5 million that we had budgeted, and was upwards of $4 million. So anything under that definitely is something that we wanted to consider. The new facility, we would pay for the water line improvement, the extension that would be required at their new location, and for the road improvements. And the estimated total of that, the total cost would be over close to $460,000, if I recall.
Exactly.
And we stated that the city would pay $403,000, and anything higher than that, KDOT would pay for, in exchange for us receiving the property on 12th Street, assuming after we do a thorough review of the property, we don't see any environmental concerns. And the city attorney has prepared an agreement with the Department of Transportation that basically states those things. And their expectation is that they would be moving forward with construction as soon as possible, working towards being able to move out of that facility sometime around the very end of 2022 or the beginning of 2023. Chris?
That's good. Suzanne covered it. I can touch on the points in the agreement, and it was added to the agenda late. We've kind of gone back and forth with KDOT on some of the terms, but that's essentially it. They would be responsible for that water line and street improvement, approximate value of $461. Should the city accept the 12th Street property, they get essentially a credit of $403. They would be responsible for the actual costs of the improvements, whether it's more or less than the $460 estimated. The city is entitled to do our due diligence, including an inspection and environmental. And if we decide that the property is not for us, we can walk away and they will pay for the total cost of the improvement. Stand for any questions on it. It hasn't been approved formally by KDOT, but their counsel indicates they are on board with the current form of the agreement and would approve it.
Do you have an estimated footprint, square footage of the KDOT building as opposed to the building we're in now out on Meridian?
I don't have that. There are multiple buildings there. So it's not just one building. There's multiple buildings.
But if you were to guess, these buildings are considerably larger than the building that we're in out there?
The total square footage is likely larger, and they are also laid out better where that structure is one building, and there's a lot of space in the office area that is not usable from a maintenance standpoint, where this has buildings that are set up for maintenance and equipment storage and those types of functions that is more usable for us from a park maintenance standpoint.
So I know for me as a citizen, I always like to look at things from all angles. So if we pay $403,000 realistically for this KDOT building, and if there's any improvements to be made, whatever that is, you know, put the number in that we need, as opposed to a $4 million building, or even $2.5 million like it was in the CIP, okay? So you do, let's just say it's $600,000 total as opposed to 2.5, and we're already paying $51,000 a year right now in the building we're at. So if you take that $51,000 a year, I mean, that's less than a 10-year payoff for this building out at KDOT. For me, just as a lay citizen, that certainly makes common sense.
Well, it's only going to cost $400,000, $403,000.
I understand that.
And that's-
I'm saying 403, and then if you have to
Oh,
make
add
any
more
improvements to the KDOT building,
Right.
and even if you get up to 600, that's still far cheaper than paying for a new $2.5 to $4 million building.
Right. At least 50-some thousand a year would go toward that.
Amen.
And just from a development standpoint, I know Zach and Beth, and when I was the development director, and Suzanne experienced this as well, we get calls all the time for somebody saying, I need an existing building of this much square footage, and it needs to be either industrial or heavy commercial, and we've got nothing. And this is a common problem in the metro area. We don't have a lot of available buildings. So by the city vacating the building we are currently leasing, that also frees up a building for another industry. I believe I think it's industrially zoned right now, or heavy commercial, one of the two. So this is the type of building that is in very high demand by the private sector for development purposes right now, for private business. So, and this is a benefit, this building is already off the tax rolls because it was owned by the state, so we're not losing any revenue. Whereas the building we're in now, because it's privately owned, we are paying those property taxes as part of our lease agreement. So there's multiple positives to us getting out of that facility and into our own space.
Right, and any improvements that we make, we have to leave behind at the existing facility, where if we own the facility and we needed to make improvements, we own it.
I think it seems like a win for everybody, so I'll make a motion to approve this agreement with KDOT.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have one person that signed up for citizens forum this evening, Mr. Brugman.
My name's Doug Brueggemann. My wife and I live at 901 North Elm. We bought the property, the vacant lot, in December of 2018, and we're right on the north side of Sand Creek. Our patio door is like 50 feet away from Sand Creek, the edge of it. And we were impressed when we started taking trees out, and we were there on a regular basis, of how much use the bike path got from people jogging, walking, kids riding bikes. And we're, impressed to see that how well it had been done and the usage that it got out of it. We were disappointed one day when we had a motorized bicycle fly by and almost wipe out a family with a couple kids. And I was advised to I ended up talking to Officer Littlejohn, because we had no idea what the regulations were, what you could do with the bike path. And I talked to him, and he said he knew who it was. I think he was the officer over at the high school. He said, I'll talk to him and get him to stop, which they did. And he said, if it continues, don't approach anybody, but call 911. So for the next couple of years, I did, and they sent police cars out regularly. Whenever I called, they were there within 10 minutes. And I talked to them a few times, and they'd ask me which direction they were going and that. Then last summer, I called, and an officer came out to the cul-de-sac, and I went out and talked to him. And he said, we can't write tickets because the ordinance doesn't restrict motorized vehicles on the bike path, which shocked me that, these kids are flying 25, 30 miles an hour, and people are jumping off the path out of their way. So I'm here just to inform you guys, something's going to happen. Somebody is going to get hurt seriously over there. And if there's any way, I'd like to see something put in place that restricts. I mean, there's motorcycles, mini bikes, motorized bicycles driving up and down there, especially coming up into this part of the year where it's warmed up. So just kind of a heads up to you guys what's going on over there, because we see it on a regular basis. Tonight, I walked by the patio door and about 4:45, and here goes a guy just flying by on a bike with a motor on it. So it's 2 or 3 a day that I see if I'm around the house. So it's just a heads up that, you know, something serious could happen, you know, over there if I don't get these kids. And it's not all kids. There's some older people too flying along up there. So thanks for the time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Chris, can you and Chief get us some info on that, please?
Absolutely. And I think I know the answer, but I want to verify it and bring back and make sure we're 100%.
I would be interested to know if that was on all the sidewalks, if that's not an ordinance, because I even see it downtown sometimes
Downtown
too.
is a problem coming out of
Bicycles on the sidewalks, you're not allowed to ride the bicycles on the sidewalks. Well, right now, I think is what he's experiencing now too, is they're putting motors on bicycles.
Yeah.
right, the whizzers.
The motorized non-street motorcycle thing in Newton is out of control, I think. So they're everywhere. And most of them aren't tagged or anything, correct? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, if you could get us an update, I think the commission would appreciate it.
No problem.
Awesome. Any? Well, barring that, we'll go around the horn. Sir?
It is just good to be part of the Newton community. That's what I want to say. Thank you.
Good to be here, and thank you for those of you who are here in person with us and those who are watching live stream. We appreciate your interest.
Donna?
I laid a agenda on in front of your place there for our next Wednesday, the May 5th, and Wednesday, May 19th for our budget work session.
She's so happy. Look at her.
I mean, numbers, you know?
Suzanne?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Kathy? Kelly?
No, sir.
Rod?
I had the opportunity to volunteer to help with the Summit League Women's Golf Championship tournament this last weekend, and had considerable time to just observe the staff out there, the crew that does the course. And I just want people to know, you know, that Kemper Sports, they've got 130 facilities, and I don't know how many years in a row, but our course here is rated #1 in player satisfaction out of all their facilities. So I want to give a shout out to Chris and James Houchin and Lori and Zach and Dustin. Just watching them run this tournament, the level of professionalism they have, the way they treat people. You know, you've got that saying, you only have one chance to make a first impression. They really represent our community well, and having them out there and being friendly like they are, you know, the compliments that I got, you know, some of the people that were there, I told them I was a commissioner and just wanted to welcome them to the community, and they just poured out, you know, the parents, in spite of the 45-mile-an-hour wind gusts that the girls were not overly happy with, are very impressed with the city of Newton, and it made me real proud to be a part of all that and to live here. So I want to give a shout out to Chris and all his people out there.
Okay.
Yeah, I know it's hard to tell, but there was a time when I was actually a little bit more in shape than I am now. And in high school, I had the pleasure of playing tennis for Heights down in Wichita. And my youngest son has taken an interest in playing. So Sunday afternoon, we went out to Athletic Park and played tennis out there. And I just observed everybody that was at the park. And there was a guy that brought a hammock and set up a hammock out there. And I think he was taking a nap. And there were so many people that were just walking by in Sand Creek on the trail and on the streets. Just a neat thing to see so many people in Newton out there. And just so many friendly people. We hit a tennis ball and it kind of rolled over. And because everything's been burnt, there's no grass stop on the banks of Sand Creek. So it just sort of rolled down. And a guy was walking his dog by and stopped and got the tennis ball and brought it over to us. Someone else stopped just to say hi. So it was just a neat thing to see so many people in our community taking advantage of our parks on such a beautiful day.
Well, that's just it in a nutshell. We've got great people, we've got a great community, and we've got great resources. I'm really hyped about the upcoming calendar this weekend. We have the Newton Downtown Car Show. That's this weekend on Saturday. And then the geek in me just loves that the library is going to help us celebrate Star Wars next week. So check them out, everyone. With that, this evening's adjourned.
Thank you.